Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to use watercolor brush pens. In this video, I'll be using Chromatek watercolor brush pens, as well as Chromatek's watercolor paper. Watercolor brushes, the type that you put the water directly inside the brush, and some paper towels. You can find links for all of these in the description. I start by taping down my art so the paper does not warp. The tape looks a bit dirty because I'm reusing it from another picture. I use a pink pen to do the outline of the flower. And then I use my wet brush to push the paint towards the center. I let it dry, and so I do the other flower. I do some dark pink in the center and the outline with the lighter pink. And with the wet brush, I'm going to be pushing the darker pink towards the outside. And then pushing the lighter pink of the outline towards the inside also. So the middle of the flower remains a bit lighter. I take a dark green for the eyes, but just a tiny bit because the color is quite dark, so I don't want it to have too much of an impact. The flower on the left has dried, so I go over it with a darker pink and repeat the same process of pushing it towards the center. Same with Shaymin's flower, I redo the center a bit darker and I still push it towards the outside. So the center of the flower is looking darker. I do the outline of the stem of the flower. Just the outline is enough because this green is very strong. I add some grass there. Just going over it with the wet brush. For the leaf there, I'm wetting the area first, and then I'm doing the outline, and then pushing it towards the center. Since the leaf is already wet, you get a different effect. The ink is just blending with the water on its own. For the other leaf, I do a similar technique where I wet the leaf but not the edges. I leave the edges dry. So then I do the edges with my pen. And then I go back with my brush and push the ink towards the water. The effect is a bit stronger than the previous leaf. Possibly I used too much ink, but it is a different technique where the water does all the work for you. Next I'm doing Shaymin's body. Shaymin's body is white and there is no white pen. So instead I use my lightest green. I only do the outline and then I use a lot of water to push the outline inside the shape of its body. It's a bit more green than I want to, so instead I use a different technique where I just rub my brush against my pen so that some green will be directly on my brush, so it will be lighter. It won't be quite as strong because there's a lot less pigment. By doing this technique I can get a very light green because I don't want to leave it just white. I want it to have some color. So I repeat this a few times. I get a very light green, which works. I spread it around with my wet brush. If I push on the watercolor brush, water will come out, so I don't need to rinse it quite as often. I go over the outline with my light green so that it's clearer. I wipe a tiny bit with a paper towel so that it's less strong. I don't think it can get much lighter than that. Next I move to the, I guess, the hair. I do the, I guess the shadowy area with a darker green and then the top with a lighter green. I add a bit of pigment. And then I go with my brush to rub it towards the center. Same with the darker green. It's important to use not too much water, otherwise the colors bleed. And it's important to wait until colors are dry, because in this case the leaf was still wet, so when I accidentally touched it, the dark green just bled inside the Shaymin's hair. In this case it wasn't too much of a big deal because it just made the back a bit darker. But you have to be careful to let everything dry before you move on. I go over the eyes with the pen. I do the nose with a gray, not a black, because the black is just too strong. I don't like it. Doing 2 layers of gray works best in my opinion. For the darker part of the mouth, I use a light brown and then pink on top, so that when the two mix, it makes a less saturated pink. I add a bit of pink here, and with my brush that still has the brown stuck to it, I just go over the mouth so that pink is also a bit less saturated. I think my outlines are not defined enough, so I just go over all the outlines with my pen. Making sure that it's dry before I do this, because if it's not, my line is going to bleed all over the place. Go over the flower too. It's looking not so bad, right? Next, I use a white gel pen just to make the little highlight in Shaymin's eyes and on the nose. And we're pretty much done. It looks alright, right? So that was a simplified tutorial. I hope it was useful to you. Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.